This is Matt Dean with A Plus College Ready, and today we're going to talk a little bit about community ecology. So a community in ecology consists of all the different populations that share a habitat and interact with each other. So they're living in the same place at the same time. Community ecologists mostly study interspecific, between different species, interactions that drive the patterns of diversity and distribution in nature. Examples of these interspecific interactions include things like competition, predation, and symbiosis. So competition is considered to be a negative type of interaction. And that's because it has a negative impact on both species that are involved. When different species compete with each other, they do so because they have overlapping niches. A niche is like an ecological role. It's where something lives and what it does and the natural resources that it uses. So when two species niches overlap, they compete. The competitive exclusion principle states that two species with exactly the same niche can't stably coexist in the same habitat. And that's because they're continually competing for the same resources. One of those species is going to go extinct eventually. In some cases, competing species evolve, and they evolve to modify their niches, and that limits competition. This is sometimes called resource partitioning, and it may involve something like one of the species evolving to use a different resource, or occupy a different part of the habitat, or maybe feed during a completely different part of the day. Predation is a type of plus-minus relationship or interaction. So it's called that because it benefits one of the partners, in this case the predator, and it hurts the prey. We typically think of predation as being one animal eating another animal, but predation also refers to herbivory, and this is when an animal feeds on a plant. The interactions between the predators and the prey often lead to coevolution, in which the prey evolve adaptations and protections against predation, and the predators evolve to become more efficient at their predation. So symbiosis is a long-term kind of association, interspecific interaction, in which two different species live together and depend on each other in some way. There's several types of symbiotic relationships in nature. One of them is mutualism. This is a positive relationship. It's called that because both species involved in the relationship benefit. An example of a mutualistic relationship would be the mycorrhiza. So mycorrhiza are fungi that grow on the roots of certain plants. The fungi increase the surface area of the roots, and they help to provide more water and nutrients to the plants. While the plants, on the other hand, provide the fungi sugars and other organic molecules and a place to live. The relationship works for both. Turns out some plants can't live without the mycorrhiza, and some of those fungi can't live without the plants. So it's a really important relationship for both organisms. A lichen is another example of a mutualistic relationship. So this is a fungus, grows usually on the sides of trees. It looks kind of greenish or bluish. Living within that fungus is either some kind of algae or cyanobacteria. So the algae or cyanobacteria provide sugars because they can do photosynthesis, and the fungus provides shelter, a place to live, and protection. It's a mutualistic relationship. It's good for both. Commensalism is another type of symbiotic relationship. Now, this is a +0 relationship because one of the partners benefits and the other isn't affected either in a positive or negative way. A good example of this are the bacteria that live on human skin. The bacteria live on the skin, they feed on dead skin, so they benefit, but they don't really hurt or help the human that they're living on. That's commensalism. Parasitism is a plus-minus relationship. Positive because the parasite gets a positive impact, negative because the host is harmed by the relationship. Good example of a parasitic relationship is the tapeworm that lives inside the human body. While in the intestines, where it mostly lives, it absorbs nutrients. So it gets a place to live, it gets free food. The host, on the other hand, loses calories. Also, the tapeworm larva at least can spread to the brain and ultimately kill the host. So can be bad, really bad for the host. Ticks would be another example of a parasite, an organism that feeds on the blood of a host and causes it harm. So there we see our interspecific interactions: competition, a negative-negative relationship; predation, a plus-minus relationship. And notice here they group parasitism in with predation. Mutualism, good for both, a plus-plus relationship. And commensalism, good for one of the partners, doesn't affect the other partner either in a positive or negative way.